Good evening, Banger Racing fans, and welcome to edition 38 of Cage Full Throttle. Ed Fahey in here from Matt Josie. Coming up with a very packed show tonight, we've plenty of reports. We reports from Skegness. We're in Kings Lynn, Hensford and Mendips. And also we're discussing some of the more controversial news that's popped up lately in the last week of Banger Racing. But before we continue with all that, let's meet our two panellists. First up, it's our man in orange, it's James Keane.
Hello, Ed. Hello to everyone listening. It's good to be back after a little bit of a break. Exciting part of the season. Everything's kicking off left, right and centre at the moment. Everything's pretty exciting, so glad to be back.
And on the other side, he's back from Le Mans. Would that make him an endurance racing fan now, or is he still a fan of Banger Racing? It's Jordan Hollins.
Hello, Ed. Hello, everyone else, and welcome to another edition of Full Throttle. Yes, I'm back from Le Mans, but Banger Racing is still at heart.
That's the main thing. Now let's move on. We were talking about it a lot the last time. It's the Skegness pre-90 teams. Team Black won it in the end, but by all accounts, it was an absolutely fantastic day. We discussed this one before, saying that Rob Speak promoting was just, he has good ideas, and this is probably his best one so far. It was basically like going into a time machine. We looked at some of the videos. I mean, we had some fantastic cars, some fantastic racing as well. And it seemed like everyone else was willing to get stuck in. Any observations there, guys?
Well, I think you've said it yourself. I think it's a great idea from Rob Speak. It's been going on for 2 years now, and I think both meetings have been absolutely exceptional, both in terms of the drivers that have turned up and the material that they've brought, and the racing on track as well. Some very heavy hits, but as far as everyone can see, all the drivers getting out, shaking hands, and no big injuries. So it looked like another excellent day on the East Coast. And I think the team of the meeting has got to be Team Extreme for bringing them 8 Toyota Crowns.
Yeah, I mean, you don't really see the crowns anymore. So I know some cars have been put away now for the older car meetings because they just prefer to be a little bit different than bringing a Scorpio or a Lexus or whatever. But of course, you can't bring those to these kind of meetings. But yeah, 8 crowns, and I think there's nearly one of every variant. I think there's four variants of crown, and 2 of them were S50 saloons, which is like the first crown saloon. Like, these are cars from the 60s. Don't forget. I mean, I know Stephen McGrath sourced his one in Belgium, but they still see them coming out after being crowns have been using Banger Racing for close to 30 years now, and there's people still bringing them out, which I think is amazing. But I think just everyone was there to have a good time. And some of the videos online was just incredible. Like, some of the follow-ins you see on Skegness are just brilliant. But it's just the fact that nobody was willing to rod. I think a very unusual thing I saw there was Jack Overy actually in the DD. It's very rare to see him trying to kill a car off in the DD. What do you think of it, James?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just echo the comments so far. From everything I've seen about it, it was everyone turned up with exactly the right attitude. Enough people turned up with material. There was a bit of a mix of teams. People were racing in different teams. They usually would as well, because basically echoing how it was there for the entertainment factor pretty much more than anything else. Like, for example, Joey racing with Team Black B, and seeing Gary and Cecil come back out in their old colours and joining in, and from pretty much everything I've seen, all the races pretty much had the entertainment factor they were looking for. There was nothing that could be considered a boring or roddy race, and echoing your comments, I think Mr. Speak is definitely onto something here, because this is the second running of that meeting. The first one almost got taken out by its own hype to an extent. Everyone was basically hyping it to be the ultimate meeting ever, and then some people unbooked. Everyone got excited by the list to begin with. But again, this year, like, it had pretty much everything you'd want from a meeting like this. Huge variety of teams mixed in, something a bit different, and I've not spoke to anyone that's come away from this unhappy. So I'm assuming that's basically the overall feeling.
It looks to be. I mean, this is probably the first big meeting of the summer, and there's 3 more coming up very soon, which we'll be discussing in a little bit. But onto another one, the BBA 2-litre range at Mendips Raceway. Now, I think Mendips is going to be somewhere that's going to be on the map a little bit more this year, because the Arena World Final is moving there. But this was an ideal warm-up meeting. Now, it's not very rare. It's not very common rather these days that basically a grid full of Mondeos generates excitement. But look some of the photographs and videos. Of course, our good friends, the Gladiators, turned up, and I don't see why people don't like them. Once the Gladiators roll into the pits, you know it's going to be a good day. They literally just drove through everything, even though Alec Jenner managed to win it, and fair play to him. But he managed to stay around the Glads. Jordan, is a fan of the Gladiators. What do you reckon?
Well, obviously, from growing up at Arena Essex, the Gladiators used to go there every single week. And as you say, they always turn it around and have a crash with the locals as well. I think they're an old school team. I think they're almost reminiscent of the Suicide Squad, in which they weren't afraid to travel about and travel in numbers. And then when they got to the track, get in the thick of the action. So I salute the Gladiators, all of them that turned up and raced, and they took home some very bent Mondeos as well.
Yeah, it was the thing as well. I mean, at least you know the Gladiators there, it's going to be a good day. They literally are a banger racing team. There's no whizzy engines, there's no brand new tyres. They're renowned for their paint jobs, but I mean, it don't really matter what colour the car is painted as long as it does what it's meant to do. Would you agree, James?
Well, I think absolutely. And to echo the old school team thing, I think it's that basic thing of, again, it adds to the whole aura, the basic paint jobs they have, and you know that when they turn up, it's almost like a byword for action that you're going to get, because the drivers that turn up, you know that they won't leave anything away from the track when they turn up. Again, the booking list that went in looked pretty good. I don't know if everyone on that list turned up, but from what I've heard, there was enough people there to make it a great meeting. Of course, it's one of the it's one of the few BBA championships throughout the year. Is it the second one that's been run so far this year? Is it? I'm not quite sure. I know obviously the World Cup was. We've had the
Championship.
Or do we have the World Cup as well, or is it? Maybe it's
the third,
because Overy won the World Cup, didn't he? Yeah, so it's the third. It's the third of the year, and all of them have been pretty well supported. And then going back to your comment about Mendips this year, like you said, there's going to be a lot of eyes on Mendips this year. Having taken over the PRI World Final, and it's good to see that it's attracting the drivers. It's probably quite a good location for people, really. I know it's quite a long way from Essex, but it does move things over to the west a bit. That makes it easier for some people to get to. It's not overly south, it's not overly north, and hopefully it's a sign of what's going to come with bangers at Mendips coming up over the rest of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. I think obviously Mendips bangers have had their ups and downs in recent years, but hopefully this is a turning point for them, because it looked an absolutely awesome day. And obviously, as you said, James, with the PRI World Final and obviously the ORCI National Banger World Final being held there in August, it will be good to see a few of like the old Arena Essex drivers like TMT, the Gladiators, and the Speedbreath guys as well. I know Jordan Cumming was there last Sunday, make the trip to Mendips, because it does look like a good track, and it deserves the numbers it gets.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to see more positivity in racing these days after what's been going on lately. It's been a bit of doom and gloom. It's been good. It's been bad, but this needs to be good. So, I mean, it's obviously put Mendips on the map. We're staying in Mendips. It was featured on Top Gear on Sunday. I know a lot of people think a little bit different to Top Gear since Jeremy, Richard and James left us, but new presenters Paddy McGuinness and I can't think of his name. What is his name?
Freddie
the cricketer
Flintoff.
Yes, Chris Hurst went banger racing. I didn't actually see it myself. I think Jordan, you seemed happy enough with it.
Yeah, I think any publicity that the sport gets can only be a good thing. I know some people were a little bit disappointed that the bangers were only on for the last 5 or 10 minutes of the show, but I think what you've got to remember is Top Gear isn't a banger racing show. It isn't a motor racing show. It is purely a car show. So they have to keep the other bits in as well. And overall, I thought it was really good. I think it's good exposure for the sport. I think with the likes of Sabine Schmidt, obviously, a very professional racing driver from Germany, also taking part in the filming on the day. And obviously, the likes of Dean Quinn, Aston Burt as well, all of our banger regulars taking part. I think it's good for the sport, and hopefully it continues and we can have some more media outlets in the future.
As well, I mean, they didn't. They obviously didn't treat the the viewers like idiots either. Just said, right, let's get to it. There's none of this. So what makes you do it? No, it's just, we're here for a reason. Let's do it. But they obviously weren't glamorizing it in the way that they're going on with the classic cars. Oh, we don't like smashing cars on. Just literally, this is racing. This is what we do. If you don't like it, watch something else. I suppose Love Island wasn't on that day anyway. So.
Oh, don't tell our beloved leader, Mr. Josie, that, because if it clashed with Love Island, I'm not sure which one he would have picked. But
our northern correspondent Rob Woolhouse, who was a massive Love Island fan.
Yeah, and that is probably why they're not on the podcast tonight. They're all getting ready for it. But enough of that rubbish, and to move back onto the bangers. Yeah, I thought it was fun. I mean, I'd watched it. I watched it on Sky Plus when I got back from Aldershot that day, and I mean, in a way, it'd been built up a little bit, and I was hoping for a bit more bangers than we got. But for what it was really fun. It was good that it sort of followed the journey of the cars through from when they bought them to how they ended on track. And of course, it's not Andrew Flintoff's first time on a banger track as well, because obviously he was out at Arena Essex along with the League of Their Own guys. But I think it's the first time that they've been out there. He'd been out there with other actual national banger racers. Of course, was it Tom Filmer that was out there? And it was one of the filmers. I think it was Tom Filmer was out there with him and a few others as well.
Yeah.
So who else was out there, George? Did you recognise anyone else? That was the one that was easy to notice.
Obviously, Dean Quinn, Aston Burt, like I said. I think there may have been Rob Setters as well, who is obviously a very popular Ringwood driver. But there was just loads of cars there. And it all looked like in the right spirit as well. Obviously, we've got to thank Dean Quinn for having Caged on the back of his car, which gave us some great exposure on national television.
So that makes today's podcast Caged as seen on national TV.
Yes, it does, yeah. I thought I had to get that in there some way. But yeah, no, it was really good. I really enjoyed it.
That's good. I mean, any publicity is good publicity these days. But yeah, I mean, if some people go, oh, that looked like fun. I know they do that in a track not too far away from me on a Saturday or Sunday. Must go and have a look at that. They go, they watch it, they enjoy it, they say, hey, I might give that a go. So all is good. We're moving on then. Kings Lynn at the Master of Destruction. Now, just a little bit different to your normal Bayern meeting. Basically, every race was a destruction derby from micros, 1500cc, 2 litres, and unlimiteds. So was it Taylor Souter brought 4 cars to race? I think that's a record.
Yeah, so, Taylor bought 4 cars. Carrying on, it's a great run of form this season. I think he's done every single Kings Lynn National Banger meeting this season, which, from where Taylor lives, is an absolutely fantastic achievement. And at most of the meetings as well, he's competed in multiple banger classes like he did the other night. So, yeah, fair play to Taylor.
Yeah, it just seemed like a good meeting in general. Like the 2 litre saloons were brilliant. I don't think there's really anyone who went away disappointed. I think one of the races was micros, but it was literally one absolutely monumental head-on. And, that'll do rather than just tickling each other. So, yeah, I think that's what we want to see.
Definitely an interesting concept. Definitely an interesting concept to run that meeting like that. I mean, people worry when people aren't trying something new to keep the hype and the thrill of banger racing going. It's definitely an interesting concept, and I think they ran it with basically the idea of drivers, if you've got cars sitting around that you can't bring out to a national banger meeting, because you know that they're not going to hold up to much more, come and kill your cars here. And I mean, let's face it, people love it when they see a DD. They like seeing the cars finished off. So I mean, there isn't too much to complain about, and it's nice to see new ideas being tried.
Oh yeah, and then the challenge in the pits of getting it going again. That's usually the bigger challenge in racing half the time. So you can get that one back out. But moving on again, we were discussing this the last time, but we've confirmed that the Mark, Mr. Happy Mitchell return meeting is happening in Ringwood next year. But guys, do you think the booking this is open a little bit too early? I mean, it's the guts of 10 months away, and there's people booking in already. Like, are all those people going to turn up on the day, or should it be a case of only book in if you have a car and you can prove that you have your car with a photograph of the car?
I think there's a certain element to sometimes bookings for these type of meetings do need to open early. I think because you've got to get it out there and advertise the meeting that it's going to be a good one. And obviously with the booking list at the moment, people were already talking about it and it's got the hype going. But I do agree with your comment about people should only book in if they know they have a picture of a car. So maybe that's something Trojan can think about. Because, you know, we have seen it in the past with Ringwood meetings. You know, drivers don't turn up for various reasons, and the booking list compared to the people that turned up is a lot less. But, you know, it's an interesting debate and an interesting topic. I don't know what James thinks about it.
I have an absolute love-hate relationship with booking lists because, on one hand, like everyone else, if I'm going to a meeting, whether I'm turning up sort of thinking, I'll just give it a chance, or I've been looking forward to a meeting for ages, I will always look at the booking list to try and anticipate what's coming up. But like you said, Ed, I think publicising a booking list pretty early can be fatal to a meeting. I mentioned it earlier when we were talking about the Skeggy Teams meeting. It almost got weighed under the weight of its own hype the first time around. I think there's no problem with announcing a meeting's going to be happening in the future, especially a meeting that involves having to prepare a special car for it. I think that can be the problem when, like I said, if it's publicised too early, there's no harm in keeping the list back, checking up every, I don't know, if you're 9 months in advance, check up 6 months in advance, you still plan to do the meeting. Check up 3 months in advance, you still plan to do the meeting. Have you got your car? Check up a month in advance, have you got your car? Is it starting to be prepped? You're confident you're going to make it? I do like looking at the booking list. I'm sure most spectators do as well when they go down to watch. I think it does have the potential to cause more problems in the long run, because I think people might end up not going to a meeting that could be really good just because of unbookings happening later on. So I think it takes really careful publicity. There's nothing wrong with the promoter opening a booking list early if drivers want to express they want to be in there, because if you've got 130 spaces in the pits for cars, then if 130 drivers say 9 months in advance, yeah, I can make it, first come first served, they should be the one in those spaces. But I think trying to hype up a meeting on a booking list when there's unless there's like 2 months, 1 month to go at the very most, and in most cases usually only a couple of weeks before, I think it can end up ruining a meeting if you put the booking list out too early.
I think it's a problem of 21st century media, really. I think people my age and even your age, James, as well, we're so dependent on booking lists for meetings.
Sorry, just to pull you up there, Jordan, what do you mean my age as well? I'm 31 years old.
I meant that as in my age, so you're a little bit younger. You're part of this 21st century generation and maybe late 90s sort of thing. Where
admit it, Jordan. You think I'm sitting here eating Werther's original and having a Horlicks, don't you? Let's be honest.
Yes, I do, Grandad. Yes, I do. But anyway, I think
you leave your great grandfather out of this, Jordan. Or we'll spank your bottom for being a naughty boy.
And
that's on Cage.
Ban you from the internet.
And that's on Caged Uncut coming out later.
It is.
But getting back onto my main point about the booking list in 21st century, I think, you know, we're so dependent on booking lists for meetings because of the distances people travel just to go and watch. You know, people already starting to plan coming over from Holland, Northern Ireland, Ireland, and in the case of our good friend Rob, coming down from the north of England as well. So I think in a way, booking lists do help attract a bigger crowd to come in rather than just the local people that may go every week or they know the track a lot more. So I think people are more dependent on booking lists now than they ever have been, really.
Yeah, I do get that, and I think that where it comes back to the 50-50 point, isn't it? I know last year at Skeggy and this year at Skeggy, a lot of people might have made the decision to go book a caravan, a seaside caravan, or book in a hotel to go to that meeting and make a weekend of it. But then, I'm coming back to it, in the end it turned out to be a fantastic meeting, but everyone's favourite forum went through, this is going to be brilliant, it's going to be the best meeting ever, this is going to be rubbish, everyone's unbooking, to, that was a really good meeting actually. And that all managed to happen in the space of a few months. And I think, and to be fair, the Skeggy Teams meeting probably wouldn't have took off if it wasn't for the amount of variation of teams and different little mixes of drivers and different teams, and the amount of some teams coming back for a one-off thing in the case of like Cecil and Gary, and people joining other teams for a one-off thing. It probably wouldn't have had the excitement it had in advance without it. But then it went through the entire roller coaster of Oval Chat in the space of 2 months, which was just, and I think that shows the good and the bad points in a very small little magnified bit there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, speaking about meetings and people being at meetings, it was announced last week, Dean Wood from Speedword, he has said that he doesn't want people live streaming at his events, which in other words is Facebook Live and previous to that Periscope. Now, I'm not really a fan of these because normally all you see is loads of backs of people. You hear a bit of racing in the distance. You don't actually see anything decent. Now, this ban doesn't apply to people who might say take photographs or take videos for later, only live streaming. And of course, looking at our favourite form again, there's loads of giving it up. You know, I don't do this, I don't like that, I don't think that's a good idea. But on the back of this, they've launched speedwork.tv, which is basically a professional broadcast, kind of like what you'd see on Sky Sports or BT Sports or any of those, and you can watch them live as the meetings happen. And to subscribe to Speedwork TV costs an awful lot less than it would be for a ticket to get into the meeting. So I think I'm kind of in favour of the ban because I think it kind of gets rid of the crap media side of it. And it's the whole argument as well, you know, if you want to go to a meeting, go and watch it, don't just sit at home because you didn't want to go or you thought it was rubbish or whatever. What do you think, guys?
Yeah, I think, well, your last point there about people not bothering to go to a meeting because they know people are going to Facebook Live it or it's going to be live on Periscope. I think then people aren't really fans. I know me and my dad were openly talking about the whole banning live streaming event the other week. And I think as well, what you've got to realise is that if you go to a show at the O2 or anywhere else that's, you know, very big in magnitude, you ain't allowed to live stream there. So technically, you shouldn't be allowed to live stream at an event, even if it is just stock car racing or banger racing. I don't think it's as big as a deal as people made it out to be. I just think the reason people were so annoyed about it was because of a shock. Because, well, like you see now, no one's talking about it. It is yesterday's news, and people have moved on. So I think Speedweb TV is very professional as well, like you said, and I think people will gradually get used to it. And yeah, fair play to Dean Wood as well for putting a lot of money into the sport we love.
I think you've hit the nail on the head a little bit there, Jordan. It was the shock factor, right? It's after the announcement was made, there were people making comments of what does that mean? Security guards are now going to be roaming around confiscating mobiles. That was never said. The fact is that when you launch a internet media platform, you have to protect your copyright. Otherwise, this is the boring legal bit. If you don't, if you allow people to abuse your copyright, then, for example, I could then just record all of the stuff on Speedworth TV, whack it up on, well, I obviously would never do this, but if I just recorded all the stuff off Speedworth TV, whacked it up on Cage, got loads of likes, and then from there, and then just we got all the likes after all the effort and money put in. I mean, I think we're all about to agree on this in one of the most contentious subjects in the last few months. We're about to all agree again, but I completely see where it's coming from. You're the promoter. The word, by virtue of being the promoter, you have the rights to sell tickets to get in. You have the rights to license media, and everything else that surrounds that. That's just the deal. And if you have to protect the fact you're making a bit of an investment, and Speedworth TV is actually a great product. I mean, I've been watching it back after I finished trying to watch all the races to see if I got a glimpse of myself in them. I then watched them all as well, and it's a great product. The commentary is absolutely on point. It's all piped in. You've got the results coming up at the end, multi-camera edits, HD quality. I think when you're doing that, you have to protect the fact that you have the rights to this product, and the only way you can do that is to say you can't broadcast it because we've got the rights to broadcast it. I don't think anyone's actually saying that, oh, if you're recording, we're going to come round and tell you stop immediately. But if you're consistently trying to live stream an entire meeting, then technically you're not allowed to do that. And the notices and everything that's come out is to say, look, stop, because that's not allowed, and we're trying to put a product together. What's quite funny is that a year or so back, me and Matt Josie were watching some Banger DVDs just before we went to the Caged meeting, before the Caged Open Cup meeting, and I said, how great would it be if there was a Netflix and it was just full of Banger DVDs and we could just flick through them? It would be fantastic. And that's basically what's been created, apart from it starting from a new library. So it's a great product. I think it's all right priced, and hopefully it'll go from strength to strength, cover more tracks, cover pretty much all the meetings. And if you can't make it, the argument is if you can't make it to the meeting, I'd watch it on the live stream. But I think for £10 a month, I don't think there's too. I think it's a great alternative, because it's, like you said, Ed, it's cheaper than going to the meeting.
Yeah, no, it's a fair point. I mean, obviously they want it's quality footage. It's not just they put a few previews up. But I know it's National Hot Rods, but I mean, you can see the quality that's involved there. You know, there's in-car, there's the timing on the screens. I mean, that's what we want. I'd rather see that than dodgy footage that backs of people's heads, umbrellas, people bumping into you. All you hear is all the shouting from the crowd rather than the commentator. But yeah, I mean, it's just that the sport needs to develop and move onwards. I mean, I know we'd all like it if it was like on British Touring Cars, you had it all day on ITV4 on summer Sundays. That's not going to happen. So this is the next best thing. So it's better to support it and, support the sport, as they say. But any thoughts on that, Jordan? Are we happy enough?
No, I think we're happy enough. Well, the only other thing I was going to say, official meeting DVDs are £12 to £15 when you take into consideration that postage as well if you order it online. So paying £10 for a month for 4 or 5 meetings or however many speedway for running is actually very good value for money. So no complaints, really.
So it started off covering, after the loss of Martin Hunt videos, it started covering Ipswich. It's doing Mildenhall and Aldershot, and everything so far that's been put up would be exactly what you'd expect to see from a DVD, except you get to watch them all for a tenner.
That's what you want. I mean, how much is a Netflix subscription compared to a cinema ticket or a DVD or a DVD player?
Yeah, so Netflix subscription is £8, but I'd spend more time watching Banger videos than I do Netflix these days.
We might see if Ash Paxton and Impact Videos want to do a deal with Netflix. You never know. These things, stranger things have happened. But like we say, it's the future, guys. Support it. I think those who will be the naysayers about it will be forgotten in time. They'll say, yes, this is a good idea. This is good footage. This is good quality. It brings quality to support. Your sponsors get coverage, advertising, all of that. I mean, that's what's important, really. But moving on, we're talking about old meetings again. We went the Hensford Veterans Day, which I think was for drivers who raced pre-1990. Now, we don't really get that many national bar meetings at Hensford, and there was a very good beat back to basics that day as well. But it was all about the veterans, really. All the old boys coming back for more go. Great camaraderie, great fun. And we got to see the basic banger racing poetry, which is Jack Overy in a Mark II Granada, literally drifting the whole way around, which is fantastic, whether it's on tarmac or on shell. It was well publicised too, and an awful lot of the modern drivers were helped out the old guys, because in some cases it might have been the old boys got the newer guys into it, either through inspiration or helping out in the pits. But any opinions, guys?
Well, I think it's a great opportunity for the older guys to carry on racing and to have one meeting a year that they can actually race and be competitive at. I think this year we saw Dave Allen back out in a Mark II Granada in team black colours with Jack Overy as well. So that was a proper blast from the past. And well, like I was going to say, Hednesford's a great track for unlimited bangers as well. So even if you get 30 or 40 cars around there, you're going to get some action because it's such an open track and it's so fast.
It still is the fastest oval. I know Ipswich claims to be very fast, but Hensford is just faster.
Ipswich doesn't have the same banking. Ipswich doesn't have the same banking.
Plus, it doesn't have the same amphitheatre experience that Hensford gives you. Like, literally stand up on the bank in Hensford, you see every single inch of the track.
And it keeps every single exhaust note within the amphitheatre, like you said. And, I mean, Jordan, me and you have been to Hensford together a few times, and Hensford is one of the tracks I grew up around, and it's always been one of my favourite tracks. And I think it's almost been forgot about in Bangor terms because the domestic scene there has been struggling for numbers a bit. But I think this meeting's proved, and in the same way Civil War proves it there every time it's there, is that Hensford can be a great Bangor track. It just has to have the right event with it. This meeting happened to actually be pretty much after the day after Bangor World Series at Birmingham. I was drafted in last minute to go up to Birmingham and work that, and it wasn't a bad Bangor World Series, but it got the standard Bangor World Series comments about it being a bit roddy, people not putting on the spectacular show. And then to go from that to Hensford the next day and seeing, with it being Veterans Day, having such a fantastic, again, a bit like the Skeggy meeting in a way. It wasn't for sporting glory. It was for spectator entertainment. I think you have to have both, because I think you need to have that balance. But again, everyone came away from that with photos of absolutely fantastic little metal sculptures of the cars that came away from it, and seeing people back out on that Hensford track who have probably had their glory on that track so many times, but then to come back and put on such a great show and prove why Hensford can be such a great Bangor track.
Yeah, I think many, if they looked at the fixtures, maybe asked the drivers in the area and further afield, look, if we put on 2 unlimited meetings at Hensford a year, 3, I don't know, if we put on the BWS round or whatever, would you support it? Because, I mean, it's obviously down to the drivers to support meetings. If you've no drivers, you've no meetings.
I mean, Hensford does now have a extra BWS round that was added to it. But, like you said, it's such a fast track that you know the people are going to turn up with performance cars, and it's not going to have that same atmosphere. Like at Civil War, is basically, if your car isn't the same colour as my car, I'm going to kill it so my teammate wins, which adds to that spectacular atmosphere. But I think the BWS round, I hope it's good. I hope there's going to be loads of cars there, because Hensford can fit in probably one of the biggest grids of cars that you can get at an oval racing track in the UK. And but I think hopefully it'll be as good as I hope it'll be, but it has the potential, because it's such a fast track, to end up being a bit roddy again.
Well, I think the thing is, people should start looking at these Bangor World Series rounds, and I know we've got the Entertainers League on and whatever, but at the end of the day, the drivers are purely there to get world qualifying points and to hopefully get a wild card pick for the world final.
They want to be the world champion. That's why
the calendar year.
They're there because they want to be the world champion. Why would they join the back of a jacking train if they've got a chance of winning the wild card?
Yeah, well, absolutely. And I think, with the Armco on the inside of the bends at Hednesford, it doesn't take a lot for there to be a little track blockage. I mean, like we've seen at the Hednesford Gold Rush.
Yeah, the Gold Rush was fantastic.
And as well, Tanks Heat 2 at Hednesford Civil War. So even if you have a car or 3 or 4 cars coming into a bend and they slide into the wall and then the other cars behind get caught up, you never know. You could be in some really good hits. Again, it just depends on what happens on the day.
I think you've hit up on something there, Jordan, because it's not like at tracks like Ipswich or the ones with the shale on the inside where you've got a safety area. It's not like at Aldershot where you can pull onto the tarmac area. Even Birmingham has quite a wide rumble strip area on the inside. Hensford, there is nowhere to hide on the corners if you're out on the corners, because it's got, apart from the figure of 8 track, everything else is grassed and barriered. So Hensford does have the opportunity to cause a big spectacular race, because there is nowhere to retire to unless you pull off on the straight, pretty much.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, and that isn't me saying there's going to be a track blockage at the Bangor World Series round. The wildcard final is going to go down to last car run, and I'm not saying that at all. All I'm saying is it does have the potential to be quite a good day. I mean, of course, it's going to be ruddy. Right, let's forget about it being a wreckfest because it's highly unlikely to happen. But if you go into a meeting with the right mindset, if it could be ruddy, but then you could get something happen maybe, you won't go home disappointed. Hednesford's a great track and it really deserves all the support it gets.
It's one of the best spectator tracks to go to because you can see everything from pretty much any vantage point you're at.
Yeah, 100%.
Totally agree with you guys there. Just end on the news there. Some rather unfortunate and tragic news, James.
Yeah, unfortunately, in the last couple of weeks, we've lost Glenn Gonzo Beavis. I know a lot in the Oval community will be saddened to have heard of this news over the last couple of weeks. He was very good friends with a lot of people across the community completely, including a few of the colleagues I work with down in the south who were devastated when they heard the news. There was a very touching minute's silence at Eastbourne, and all marshals at Aldershot last Sunday wore black armbands. He'll probably be best remembered for his exploits in micro bangers, especially at Wimbledon. I've seen an outpouring of people saying about how devastated they are to hear the news, and I think we'd just like to echo that here from Caged. Race in peace.
Indeed. Moving on, we have a few very big meetings coming up in the next 2 weeks. The first one we're going to talk about is Unlimited Bangers at Ipswich Speed Weekend. Now, for a long time, Speed Weekend it's mainly incorporates the National Hot Rod World Championship, the gold roof, the gold top for National Hot Rods, and there's usually been a fairly varied support formula. There's usually stuff like 2 litre hot rods, ninja carts, stock rods, lightning rods, things that don't really hit each other on purpose. But in the last couple of years, there's been bangers at it. And this year, finally, after an awful lot of nagging, they're running Unlimited Bangers. And it's also a World Final Entertainers Wildcard. So basically, whoever wins the Entertainers League gets seeded directly into the World Final. And at the moment, we've 64 cars booked in. So it's looking quite exciting. What do you reckon, James?
Oh, I'm excited. I love Speed Weekend generally. As Cage also took over Oval Talk, so for those of you with this in your podcast feed with Downforce UK, expect a special Oval Talk coming up where with it of course being Speedworth Speed Weekend, we actually ended up interviewing the Track Star World Champion as part of it. But Jordan Cumming pretty much echoed everything we said about this. Everyone wants to race at Speed Weekend. If you've been racing on the southern tracks or the East Anglian tracks or basically anywhere in the country, you would have probably been to a Speed Weekend and seen it as the festival of oval motorsport that it is. And the fact that this race, there's a world final place on the best entertainer for the day. Entertainer points go from which car you bring, the paint job you have, what you do within the racing, what you do within the races. I think even though there's quite a few people looking down the list that probably will qualify anyway, I think everyone wants to go away from Speed Weekend saying, yeah, I've turned up, I was the entertainer at Speed Weekend in the National Bangers, and I think it's got the potential to be really good. There's loads, the list seems to have been growing every day. I've looked at it since, and yeah, I think it's exactly the sort of list you'd expect from a big Speedworth meeting. I mean, you've got like Jack Overy's there, Stacey Holsworth, the Anscombs, Jack Ansell. You've got Jordan, Ricky Finney, Billy Bond, Dale Hughes, Jamie Paul. I can pretty much read every name out here because it's just looking absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, there's a few older names in there as well. I see Sonny Sherwood, Mushy is coming back along with 145 Colin Sonic Dick, and he back 20 years ago he was a proper material maestro. Like you'd never see a car on the raw from him. It was always something very special and a very special paint job as well.
I didn't even see Mushy on the list, so thanks for pointing out. I didn't
he's
even
there.
see Mushy on the list.
Yeah,
no, he is. Yeah, he's there. 348 Sonny Sherwood. That's exciting.
Yeah, so and to see Alan Hunt Jetro's in there as well. Who else? I'm just looking down through the list. Kieran McIver took full advantage of a Tom Waller raffle and actually won a built Mercedes E-Class to race on today, he'll be one to watch because he's fairly keen on getting into the world final, but he just doesn't really have the time to do all the qualifying rounds. So here's his chance now to get in purely on what he's good at, which is using the bumper. But not to take away, and he's a good driver as well. He won Nutshaker 5 times in a row, and he's still the only Northern Irish driver to have won Shamrock. But just looking through the list there, I mean, it's a real mixture of what you want to see. There's a good mixture of entertainers and racers. So you'll have a bit of both, I think. You're looking forward to Jordan.
So we've got sorry, Jordan. Just becoming as well. We've also got 2 current world champions and another world champion that only recently lost his gold reef as well. So it's nice to see representation across from all the promotions as well.
Well, yeah, I'm just going to echo what James said. I've been going to Speed Weekend since 2006. I mean, as people know, or probably don't know, I am a lover of everything that is oval racing. So whether it be national hot rods or the Ninja Karts, like I will watch a race with interest. And Speed Weekend always delivers for me. I've never come away from it feeling disappointed. And I think the Unlimited Bangers returning with a wildcard spot is everything that everybody's asked for year after year on Oval Banger Chat, on Facebook, on Instagram, saying get the Unlimited Bangers at Speed Weekend, put a wildcard entertainer spot on the meeting, and you'll be in for a good day. And, well, credit to Speedworth and Deanwood. This is what they've done this year, so hopefully it delivers.
Yeah, I think, Jordan, that last point as well, I want to echo as well, because thinking back to the last 2 Speed Weekends particularly, we had a sort of domestic civil war, which was North Speedworth versus South Speedworth, which had its moments, but was all right. And then people said, bring back the Nationals. Last year we had the Back to Basics, who had been fantastic across the tracks, but maybe it wasn't as spectacular as everyone hoped it would be for Bangers at Speed Weekend. Everyone said bring back the Nationals. They've brought back the Nationals in a way that means this race really does mean something to the people, and it's not a case of win the race and get to the world final. It's a case of be the most spectacular driver out there and you'll be in the world final grid. So I fail to see how much more they could do for trying to put on a big, spectacular banger race at Speed Weekend. And I'm excited, and I hope it's going to be brilliant.
It looks to be exciting. Let's hope that it might even get a few more hot rod fans interested in bangers if the racing is entertaining. I mean, it's only on the Saturday now, don't forget, it's not on Saturday and Sunday. So if you like bangers, go to Speed Weekend on the Saturday. The next meeting coming up, now, funnily enough, it's probably the 2 biggest meetings of the entire banger racing season that aren't Speedworth related. They're both on the same weekend. Well, one's on one day, one's over 2 days. I don't know which one we're going to discuss first. Are we going to discuss M and Teams first, or are we going to discuss the Bears Bash first? I think the easiest way to do it is go alphabetically. So we're going to discuss the Bears Bash at Eastbourne. Now, the Bears, love them or hate them, they're like the gladiators. They're there to put on a show. They're there to entertain. They have obviously come up with a very good unlimited bangers formula. You know, you're allowed to strengthen a little bit where it's fair, where it's safe. The Bears themselves do the scrutineering. But this meeting just seems to have it all. I mean, at the moment, there's over 130 drivers booked in, and this is all unlimited bangers, of course. You're allowed to pretty much race anything you like within reason. Obviously, no Sherman tanks are allowed, but pretty much everything else is allowed. A very large, a very varied booking in this. It's a real who's who again of banger racing. Basically, if you're not racing in Emmen that weekend, you're racing here. Jordan, any predictions, or is this going to be another very, very hard hitting meeting?
Well, the Bears Bash, I think it's into its 6th or 7th year now. Obviously, it started off at Smallfield before eventually finding its home at the Arlington Stadium, and it never disappoints. Obviously, in recent years, we've seen the Bears versus Posh Wash have an almighty jacking train, and I'm predicting the same again this year. I think you've got a lot of Bears booked in, which obviously you'd expect, and also the Posh Wash as well, like the likes of Jamie Wyatt, Ben Wyatt, and Sam Wyatt, as well as obviously Muttley as well. All drivers that are more than capable of putting in some fantastic wrecking displays. And I'm excited as well, because it could be potentially my first Bears Bash. So hopefully, if everything goes to plan, I'll actually be there this year.
James, will you be Orange Army again there this week at the Bears Bash?
Well, probably not actually, because there are the the Eastbourne staff this year they've got a really good regular staff rotation, so it's unlikely that I'll be called in to add cover. If I do, I'll be happy to work it like I did last year. If not, I will be absolutely delighted to be watching this from the stands, because the Bears Bash booking in list, it opens up to the people that have been there year after year first, basically. So if you were there the year before, you get the chance to book in before. And as like you said, Jordan, if you want a prediction, when does the Bears Bash posh wash jacking train come? Because in the heats last year, it started off a bit slow in heat 1, but then every heat had that exciting moment with the jacking train that came afterwards. You're listening through it as well, remembering what happened as well in the end with Charlie Randall seeing his fin plate end up in the footwell of the car behind him. Was pretty exciting, and it's one of the best events of the year, and if I'm not working it, I can't wait to be watching it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, as you said, James, it is a meeting that normally starts off quite slow, but drivers like to get their laps in first because they do like to bring out some unusual or more interesting material that won't be competitive at, say, your Bang of Old Series round or your World Qualifying rounds. But as the meeting goes on through the night, it is probably some of the hardest, most brutal banger action you will see anywhere in the country this year. And, well, yeah, I can't wait. It's always a great event. And let's not forget, it raises a lot of money for a very, very worthwhile charity as well.
Yeah, very much so. I think it's one of the local children's hospitals, and they literally raise thousands of pounds for this, which is good to see. You know,
each event raises in the region between £10,000 and £14,000, which is it's just a fantastic sum to be raised from people going out there doing what they love, people going to watch doing what they love, and then at the end of it, the outcome is a life-changing sum of money to some people.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to give something back as well. I mean, charity begins at home and all that, but I mean, it's just fantastic what they've done and what they continue to do. I mean, go on, James. Sorry,
I think the Bears actually did after being nominated for a couple of years in a row. The Bears did actually win the Brighton area basically charitable event of the year, which I think just shows their commitment to actually. It's not just them hosting an event. They are genuinely, really, and absolutely committed to the cause they support.
Yeah, and Michael Burns too kind of handles the charitable side of things. He does a great job as well promoting the meeting. Like, he gets all the local media involved. I think a lot of other medias could do with the amount of promotion that he puts in. Like, he even say getting local newspapers, local radio involved. But I mean, it just looks again to be an absolutely fantastic event. But, of course, the gods of Volvo Racing have decided that the same weekend is the other massive meeting of the season, which is in Emmen in Holland. It's the team meeting, again, unlimited. Looking through the booking in list, I think we've the guts of, I think there's nearly like 180 cars booked in. But looking through the booking in list, there's a rather recurring theme. One, fair enough, there's an awful lot of local drivers. Two, there's an awful lot of visiting drivers. But three, there's an awful lot of Volvos being booked in. So that only means one thing: we're not going to be going for lap records here.
Well, I think it means the 3 litre boys will be there then.
Yep, pretty much. They've got two teams booked in.
But yeah, I think. I was just going to say, I think you said it yourself about the Volvos. No one's going to be going for lap records. I think anyone that's seen videos from Emmen teams in previous years, they know what to expect. It is going to be absolutely amazing. It's going to be flat out, hit after hit after hit. Drivers getting out, shaking hands, pulling the car back to the pits, having a barbecue, having a beer, pulling it out and doing it again and again and again throughout the weekend. Because don't forget, it is 2 days, and the Unlimited Bangers will have probably in excess of, 8 to 10 races on each day. So it's one not to miss, I don't think. And like I said, I'm not going this year because I can't, but it is a meeting that is on my to-do list for the near future. and it's great as well that we're here at Cage. We're finally going to be able to bring you some coverage, as I believe Bryson Walker, Brick, is going to go over there for us as well.
Actually, I'll just correct something I said. I said there was something like 150 drivers. I'm just reading an old chat. We have 30 teams with 236 drivers. Now, that's 6 cars per team, so that's just incredible. I think I've seen the videos. You've seen the video a few years back of Jack Starr literally flying through the air, gracefully pirouetting, as he just decided he was going to go straight in. I think that was a third gear hit that he pulled off. But everyone just has the same idea. If you like Jack and trains, you're going to love Emin. And like we said, the whole atmosphere off the track as well is on it. Nothing short of amazing.
I wish it was a different part of the year so I can make the journey over. It's just with it being after Speed Weekend at the same time as the Bears Bash. Hopefully the calendar falls kindly one time. We could all make the Cage road trip over.
Pretty much. But I mean, it's a case of this meeting is just something for everyone. I mean, if you like looking at cars, it's going to be a good meeting. If you like serious Jack and trains, it's going to be a good meeting. If you like watching the Pitts resurrection, as the clock of resurrection rings, it's going to be a good meeting. But no one's ever really complained about this meeting. I think the only complaints they have about this meeting is it's only once a year. If every bar meeting could be like this, we'll be on something special.
So thank you to Jordan's clock there as well. I mean, we've missed your clock after 4 weeks. It's nice to hear it again.
I think it's missed you as well. It seemed especially loud tonight. So that's my clock, everyone.
To be fair, while they're repairing Big Ben and the bells don't strike, we could always do a Cage special New Year's episode where we just all gather round and listen to your clock strike in the new year.
Yeah, I would say, as long as you're providing the drinks, James, everyone can come to my house and we'll have a good party.
Do you hear that, the listeners? We occasionally peak at 1,200 people listening. You're all welcome round Jordan's house for New Year's.
And especially to Rob and Matt, who are no doubt listening in, Love Island is on now if you really, really are that sad and pathetic. Cheers, guys.
I wonder what Anna will do tonight. I think that's a big talking point at the moment on Love Island, isn't it?
Oh, we have 3 caged crew members who watch Love Island. Are you admitting something, Jordan?
No, I don't watch Love Island. It's just our leader, Mr. Matt Josie, hasn't shut up about it since it started. So that's why I know so much about it.
You are forgiven. That's all I shall say. That's no problem. We really needed to punish you there now, but no, you've successfully blagged your way out of it. But moving on, we were talking about booking in lists. We're talking about loads of different cars. Of course, this being the 4th of July, the American Day of Independence, let's make Cage great again and discuss what is your favourite or least favourite American car to see the track. Now, of course, the Yank Tanks have been part of stock car racing since the very, very start, dating back to the early 1950s for stock car racing, which was mostly World War II American saloons, which had a little bit of banger racing, a little bit of stock car racing. Of course, this racing back then eventually became Briscoe Formula One. But moving on to, say, the late 60s and early 70s, still plenty of American cars knocking around. And all of a sudden, when banger racing became extremely popular, these rather large, heavy and slow behemoths suddenly found a new use. I'm not sure where to begin with, really, what's been the very best Yank. I mean, it's the case of, is it the coolest one? Is it the strongest one? Is it the one that literally made your head turn? What was it? Jordan, any suggestions?
Oh, well, I'm not particularly good with my big American cars. So I'm not going to give you any brand names because I'm sure one of our beloved listeners will be out there correcting me. But I will just say, when you see a big Yank tank turn up to a meeting, you know it's going to be put to some sort of use, whether that's piling into the back of someone or just causing havoc in some other way. I think Yank tanks are a special part of banger racing, and they cause a lot of damage as well. I think it's good that they're largely used in the right way. But I think my one that sticks out in my memory is Firecracker 2006. And I think it was 474 Matty bought this lovely big American car. And I think in the first heat of the day, it broke his steering. It was all jacked up at the back, but still he kept going round. And I think he may have won it last car running. So that for me is one of my favourite Yank tanks.
And would you have a least favourite, or does such a thing exist?
Oh, I don't think a least favourite Yank tank exists for me. Certainly not one that I've seen at a meeting. I think Yank tanks always provide some good action, like I said. I guess my least favourite would be, and I dare say it, the Chrysler Imperial, purely for the fact that they're so big, and because they're on a truck chassis, they done a lot of damage to cars and drivers, sadly. So thankfully they're banned now, but I think they'd be my least favourite.
I think with the Imperials, an awful lot of it was down to the drivers. From the Firecracker 2001, Mark Hughes from Ireland brought an Imperial over, 67 Imperial, one of the later ones. But he just was very sensible with it. He can't just use it like a big bumper car. He just bumped into people. Like, fair enough, he wasn't going the wrong way. He wasn't jacking up people. He wasn't doing anything silly with it. Whereas I think the driver has an awful lot to do with it. But looking at the cage comments, Sean Burbage says the limo last year at Ringwood Open purely for the fact that nearly went home cutting two. Of course, that's what everyone kind of wants to see with the big Lincoln Town cars. Literally want to see them chopped in half. And I think that was the closest we ever got to it. James, any thoughts?
So I had one in mind, but just before I get to that, I think before I get to that, there's probably one of the most iconic banger photos was when I think it was Paul Corpiella's Lincoln Town Car Limo. Was that a Lincoln Town Car Limo? One of the most iconic firecracker photos that have ever happened. Looking 70 degrees up in the air after a huge following, winning Entertainer of the Day on that. And so that's just popped in my head after we were talking about that. But from the emotional level, it was one of the most iconic cars that we had turn up to the first ever caged Open Cup. Of course, the day before, Taylor Souter wasn't allowed to race his Lincoln Continental at Ringwood. He couldn't pass scrutiny at the time. He didn't have the time to fix the car. So the next day, when we're all standing in the pits, we're all feeling a bit nervous about, will our first ever caged Open Cup be a bit of a success? And then we see that come in. He goes straight over to the scrutineer saying, what do I need to make sure this car can go out? We have an absolutely fantastic caged Open Unlimited Cup, and then that car gets the ending image of that car was going through Bradley D. Crandon's limo, stretched across the Stanley track. He takes the hit perfectly, well behind. He was driver's door up, but Taylor lined it up well behind the cage, basically putting that Lincoln Continental straight through the centre of that limo. So from an emotional level, I'm just going to have to go for that because it was exactly what we wanted from a cage meeting, and we might have all been a bit nervous going into it, but then after that, after seeing those images come out of it, it felt a bit special. So I'm going to go with that one.
Yeah, fair enough. I'll come to myself. I don't know, to be honest. I wouldn't be a huge American car fan, but I know a good yank when I see one. I don't know where it's the best one. I think it depends. Is it the fact that it's a cool looking car, or the fact that it's very strong, or it's being put around well? I think coolness, going all the way back to Firecracker 2000, was Dan Steele at the Buick Riviera Boattail. Google search one of those, just a very cool looking car. You'd Frank Cassidy with the Dodge Royale Hearse, 1956, real curvy, classic looking car. Some people said at the time that was one of the best American cars ever raced. I don't know really where to finish. Other ones that stick out would be the Pee Wee meeting with the All Yankees, in particular Boxer Jack literally drifting a big massive Cadillac limousine all the way around with a V8 in it as well, not just with a different engine dropped in. But I'm not sure really. I think it's the one of the very few cars that I genuinely don't like to see being banger raced. So the worst yank for me, any time that one is raced, a 1977 to 1979 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am, the car from Smokey and the Bandit. I literally, every time I see one race, I want to cry. So that's one of the very few cars I could probably count them on one hand that I just don't like to see raced. It just hurts me for whatever reason. Probably because I'd love one. I'd love one for the road. That's why.
I'm not the only person listening that is now Googling this rapidly. I mean, I will be the first to admit that I don't know the cars as well as you guys.
Well, do you remember Smokey and the Bandit when Burt Reynolds Lord rest him?
Again, how old do people think I am?
You've seen Smokey in the Band. You like cars, don't you?
Was it the car they turned into Kit in Knight Rider? Or was that a Firebird?
No, it was the one before that. We're not really here to get very, very technical about cars. I'll send you a picture and chat. You know which one it is. But,
yes, I've got it. To be fair, in James's defence, it does look a little bit like Knight Rider. The cars I found.
You see, Knight Rider was the later model. Basically, Knight Rider was a Mark III. This is a Mark II.
Okay. Right.
Okay.
I'll tighten my anorak strings up really, really tight.
Yeah, letting you all in behind the curtain. Ed has just sent an image, and this is now very recognisable as exactly what you would expect from a 70s American car.
I just like them, okay? I don't care what anybody thinks. I mean, me getting all emotional here now on cage, that's not meant to happen. And I know that most people have turned off now to watch Love Island anyway, so it doesn't really matter what we say.
Yeah. Yes, that is an iconic looking car. I do know what you mean, Ed. It is. If someone said, draw an American 1970s car, they'd probably draw that. It is, very iconic and very cool, actually. I imagine it being a good banger, to be fair. It's got a nice long bonnet as well. It's almost a bit like a Toyota Supra that's been stretched out a little bit in a weird way.
Well, the irony is they're actually rubbish for bangers because if you remember last year at the 3-litre meeting at Stan Lake, the Reynolds boys bought 3 Camaros, which are a very similar shaped car. They're just no good. They're weak as anything at the back. There's not that much strength in the front. They look cool, but they're not good for bangers.
And of course, oval tracks involve corners, so American cars are never going to be great.
Yeah, this is it. Well, that ends the discussion for the evening before I get totally emotional and need more than one box of Kleenex to hand. But let's continue to make bangers great again and discuss the fixtures. We've already discussed what's the big meetings, but let's look at the rest, just run through them very quickly because we're well behind time. This weekend at Ipswich, you've Unlimited Bangers Entertainers Wildcard. There's also the Van Bangers Championship of the World at Barford, and then Bentlow and Honda's Unlimiteds. And the same day then, a meeting which has really gone from hero to zero. The Buxton King of the Peak is now back to basics rather than unlimited. That used to be a huge meeting. Stansted micro teams, the Townsend Memorial teams of 6 each. Then the same day, so 3 meetings on the same day, you have the pre-85 Mike Hook Memorial at Stan Lake. That usually brings some of the older classic bills out. And 2 days after that, Smeartype Micro Bangers. Of course, the weekend after that, we've Eastbourne and Emmon. So you have the Unlimited Bears Bash, and you have the Unlimited Team Session. Same day at Kings Lynn, you have 2-litre rear-wheel drive and micros. On the following day, then the 14th at Emmon, you have 2 days worth of it. And the 14th again at Wharton, micro bangers. On the same day again, a track which seems to be coming up all of a sudden. I know our beloved leader, Matt Josie, is a big fan of it. You have Ringwood Cheetahs for the 1500 bangers, Ferret Cup. Should be interesting. And then the week after that, you have Stoke, the pre-75 Reaper Charge, which is basically a rerunning of the slightly swamped Stan Woods meeting. And then the same day, Tullyron, micro teams of 3, which should be a good session. But I'm sure we have the weather for it anyway at this time of the year, so they should all be good meetings. Any final thoughts, guys?
No, none for me, I don't think.
No, I think you've pretty much covered everything there, Ed.
Yeah. Well, like I said, we should be back. We should be back in slightly less time for the next one, so we're going to have an awful lot again to talk about. But we'll just wrap it up for the evening then. I'd like to say thanks to my 2 panellists. Thank you very much, James.
Thank you very much, Ed. It's been a pleasure as always. It's always nice when we go over because it just means we couldn't just stop talking about bangers. So good night to you, good night to Jordan, and good night to all the listeners with us.
And thank you very much, Jordan Hollins.
Thank you very much, Ed. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and listening. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you very much indeed. Well, that has been episode 38 of Caged. It's been a pleasure as always. We hope you enjoyed our discussion. Don't forget to like our pages on Facebook and Instagram. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you want to see. Give us your opinions. They're always welcome, whether they're good or bad. I've been Ed Fahey. Thank you for listening to Caged.